Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. What's good? What's cracking? How you doing? Today I'm coming at you with my book award. Book awards. I don't know what I'm calling this, but book awards of 2021. So today I'm just going to go over my categories and let you know which books won. I have, I want to say like 14, maybe 15 categories, of which are books and or bookish related, and I'm really excited, so I guess we can just get into it, right? So these book award categories that I have chosen are slightly based off G from the Book Roast, because she also does a book awards for the end of the year, and then I also collected some of these from the book survey tag list questions, where there's like a whole bunch of them, so I chose a couple from there as well to help construct this list that I came up with. So without further ado, the first award goes to book that was the most surprising. For this I actually have two contenders. I have a first and a second place. Second place would be All's Well by Mona Awad. Wow, this book won an award by me? If you know my journey with this book, I actually DNF'd this during the month that the Literally Dead book club was reading this, because oh man, those first 75 pages, like the first part of this book, brutal. I had not fun. I was not having fun reading this book by any means. I thought it was just so slow, and as much as I tried to feel for this character, I didn't like her, so I didn't feel bad that she was in pain. This is following our main character, Miranda, who is in chronic pain, and no doctor can help her figure out what's wrong. And one day she meets these three mysterious benefactors who understand her pain and are going to help her. Whilst all of that is happening, she is a theater teacher, and she is trying to put All's Well That Ends Well on by Shakespeare with her theater department, but the students would rather put on Macbeth. So there's that drama, as well as her own personal problems with her pain, and one day she gets cured, and it's a ride. Definitely after the first part, this book really started to pick up. I watched the live show, and people had a lot of mixed opinions. Some people loved it, some people hated it. This was my first Mona Awad. I hated it. Months later, I came to revisit this because it fit a disability prompt in a future readathon TBR. So I picked up the audiobook. Oh wow, this book is so good. Again, it's weird, and it's not a thriller like I was expecting it to be, so once my expectations changed, I think that also helped my perception of this book. But yeah, that definitely changed the game. If you struggle with finishing a book, I highly recommend pick up the audiobook. It will help it speed up so much, and if you still don't like it, DNF it. Get it gone. And then in first place, for most surprising, My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. If you've seen reviews about this book, besides Kayla from Books and Lala, because this was like one of her favorite books of the year, not good reviews. People have DNF'd this book more so in 2021 than I think I've ever seen someone, like a group, collectively DNF a book. But if you decide to pick this up, which I do recommend you pick it up, if you love slasher films, pick it up. But if you pick it up, pick up the audiobook, read along, it'll speed up the pace a little bit, help you get through it, because it's not fun the first 300 pages. It's interesting. I absolutely loved the sections where we got to read slasher 101s. I thought that was so interesting. As someone who I'm not very familiar with slasher movies, I thought it was brilliant. We're following Jade, who loves slasher films, and she meets the definition of a final girl, like the most perfect final girl you could ever have. And with that being said, Jane somehow thinks that her town is going to have a real life slasher, like a real life slasher in her town, and she's so excited. And so the first 300 pages are her figuring this out, making this idea work, and trying to help the final girl be prepared for what's to come. When I tell you the last 100 pages were a 5-star and bumped this book from 2 stars to 4 stars, yeah, this was surprising. I thought I was going to hate this and DNF it, and that I wasn't going to have any fun in the live show, but plot twist of the year. This was so good. This was definitely my favorite Stephen Graham Jones that I've read so far. He has a massive backlist that I hope to slowly chip away at, but yes, highly recommend. It's a tough read at times, but it was very good. Next on my Book Awards of 2021, most disappointing. So, I didn't read a lot of bad books necessarily this year, but I read some so-so books, but one that I was very excited for, read it the day of release. The audiobook was out. I was so ready for these vibes. Then I was crushed. I'm talking about Nothing But Black and Teeth by Cassandra Khaw. I've heard a lot of better reviews now that it's a bit later on, but when this first released, no one was liking it, and I was a part of that problem. I really was so excited for this like Japanese folk horror-ness. We're following a group of characters who are meeting at this haunted house that's been abandoned for a wedding because it was two of their, or I guess the bride's dream, to get married in a haunted house. The legend of this house is that a bride was going to get married there and her husband died on the, or like her fiance died on the way, and so she had herself buried alive so that she could wait for his return. And ever since, a new bride has been offered, also died, I guess, with her. I'm so good at synopsis. Whew. But yeah, my problems with this book. I didn't give a fuck about the friend group. Their drama was stupid and petty, and it just felt super young and teenager. Everyone's dated everyone. It was very complex, but for no reason. It didn't give enough to the plot. My other qualm, not enough scares, not enough horror. I was expecting so much, and maybe this would have done better as like a full-length novel rather than a novella, but it just did not give me the vibes, and I really was looking for those vibes. And so that is why Nothing But Black and Teeth made it on this list as the most disappointing. I'm sorry, Cassandra Khaw. It wasn't terrible, it just wasn't great. The next award is the most beautiful cover that you received or bought in 2021. Are we surprised? This is Small Favors by Erin Craig. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. I love the bees, the flowers, the texture of the honey. Delicious, if you might say. Buzzin'. I need to stop. But yeah, I have not read this yet, but it is the most beautiful cover that I've got, and I'm so excited for it. This is like top of my list. Like, I am so ready to read this. This is going to be horrific and scary and beautiful. The next award that I've generously gifted is your most memorable character. Not your favorite, not your least favorite, not your favorite couple, but your most memorable character. And of course, I had to give it to Anne with an E of Anne of Green Gables. I loved this. I love Anne. I didn't know that the show on Netflix, Anne with an E, was based off Anne of Green Gables. Sorry, a little naive and dumb on my part, but it's true. And so when I read this in May and listened to the audiobook, I could picture the show, and the actress that plays Anne with an E is just like the best image to have. The show is beautiful and well done. This book is beautiful and well done. It's just so beautifully written, and the way that nature is talked about in friendship, and just like, you know those TikTokers who romanticize their lives? They've got nothing on my girl Anne. Nothing. She is just everything I hope to someday be. She's amazing and fantastic and wonderful. And I cherish who she is and how memorable she is in my heart. My next award goes to the most beautifully written book that I read. Is without a doubt A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. Ooh, this book. I listened to the audiobook and read along with the ebook, and what a wonderful experience. The audiobook is so well done. It was absolutely amazing, fantastic, beautiful. In this, we are following Costanza, who was dying on the streets when a lad came to her and saved her life by turning her into a vampire. And basically this is just like them going through life, making money and moving to different places, living their romanticized, tragic life. This looks at abusive relationships so beautifully, and then eventually more characters are introduced to the romance, and it's just so good. It was so good. It was one of my favorite books of the year. Hey, the next award will be most thought-provoking, most life-changing. It's a little more dramatic than it really is, but these are the books that made me think, the books that meant something to me. I have two contenders. First being The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. This edition, this is like the 25th edition, yeah, 25th anniversary. Deckled edges, beautiful, stunning, amazing. I really like this. I know that it's a Pinterest board of inspirational quotes, and I love that shit. I eat that shit up. So I really enjoyed this. I liked the meaning. I liked the chase your dreams. Continue on your path to chase your dreams. Don't stop for other things. Just do what you need to do. And I like that. In books like these, I think if you're not in the place for that kind of advice, it's gonna be cheesy. It's not really necessary. You're not gonna care. But if you're in a place where you need that reminder, that hope, that push, it's nice. I really enjoyed this. It made me feel heard. I've gone through a lot of changes this last year, and so it was really nice to see someone go after their dreams. In this, we are following a shepherd boy who has a dream that there's buried treasure under the Egyptian pyramids. So he sells his sheep and goes on this journey, and along the way he meets so many people, the alchemist being one of them, of course, and everyone just continues to push him towards his dream. It's a weird journey and concept overall, but it was very sweet and good. And then in the first place spot, we have The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Is this revolutionary? No. Is this never been said before, brand new to the world? No. But did it hit me in the gut and make me love it? Yes. Do I like the main character? Absolutely not. I remember nothing about her. I didn't give any shits about her life. But yet somehow this became a 5-star. Loved the librarian. I loved the concept. I loved the conversations it had. Yes, a little bit cheesy, but I like cheese. I love me some cheese. In this, we're following Nora, and Nora is having a hard time. She's at her breaking point, and she does attempt to take her life. So, trigger warnings if you're not ready for this kind of book. After this evening, she finds herself in an in-between space at the Midnight Library, where it's always midnight, and she can relive as many lives of hers that she once based off the tiniest of regrets she had made, like not getting coffee with someone, or something a lot bigger, like going to Antarctica. And you get to follow her while she's going to each life and figuring it out. And I really thought that I knew where this was going at times, and then it kind of strayed different, and then it came back to where I thought it was a good journey. I really enjoyed it. I'm sorry if you didn't, but that's okay. This is not for everyone, and that's okay. This book is not a cure-all to depression. I didn't read this and then my depression went away or anything. Still a sad girl, but it is nice to hear the advice and remember what you often forget about. So that was my life-changing award. The next award is the best debut novel that I read. This wasn't a debut of 2021, just their debut novel, and they haven't written anything since, but I fell so in love with the story and these characters and just everything about it. The writing, the atmosphere. It was fantastic. And I'm talking about If We Were Villains by L.M. Rio. This was so good. This is a book following Oliver when he's getting out of prison, and the lead detective on the case wants to know what truthfully really happened during that day that led Oliver to be getting arrested and so on. And basically you just get to hear Oliver tell the story of what really happened and what went down that day when one of the kids died. We're following Oliver and his group of friends, a very small group in this college, in a very artistic college, and their whole life is dedicated to studying Shakespeare now. And it's just so good. They speak quotes. I love the dialogue, how it is written like a Shakespeare play or any play. So good. I can't say enough good things. This was a definite 5-star read for me. I love it. The hype was worth it. It was real. Everyone did a fantastic job with letting me know that this was a good book. So thank you guys on the internet who led me to this book. The next award is the book with the best world building. And for this, I've gone with House of Salt and Sorrow by Aaron A. Craig. If you know, you know. I love this book. It's not that I've read a lot of mixed reviews. If you know, you know. I love this book. I've read some mixed reviews on Goodreads, but I loved this. I thought it was fantastic. I loved the atmosphere. I loved the world building. Yeah, it gets a little weird at the end, but I like that stuff. I like when a book gets weird at the end. That's just who I am at this point. Anyway, this is following Anna Lee, who is one of 8 sisters, 7 kind of. Technically, she's one of 12 sisters, but they have a family curse everyone believes in that is killing off these sisters, and now they're down to 7. After the most recent death of a sister, there's the funeral in the morning, which is non-stop, but things are changing with the new stepmom and just life in general, and these animals. Anyway, a lot is changing in life in general, and as time goes on and things start to change a little bit, we realize that it's not a curse. And I'm gonna leave it at that because I don't want to spoil anything. There is a light romance in here that was really good, but the atmosphere is so good. It's horrific and beautiful. There's ballrooms, there's the ocean. I love an ocean book. Fantastic. 5 stars, of course. One of my favorites. I loved it. This is the reason why my love for Aaron A. Craig is so strong. My next award goes to the book that made me cry. Now, when I say cry, I don't mean like I sobbed or anything. There was very few books that made me like shed tears a little bit or like get watery eyed. So this was kind of a hard one for me to decide, but I ended up going with Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nang. This is a lot. In this, we're following Lei, who is basically kidnapped by a mooncast demon, if you will, animal-formed human, and is sent off to the king to be one of his paper girls. These paper girls are similar to geishas. This does have a lot of Asian influence, which I loved about it, and she's not happy about this, and I don't blame her. I'd be pretty upset as well, but she does it so that she can keep her family safe. And we go on a journey that is not fun at times, and sometimes it's okay. There's a sapphic romance in here, which I did really appreciate and love, and then there's some pain and some not fun parts, but the ending was very satisfying. This is a trilogy, so the last 2 books are out and released, so if you pick this up, you can breeze through them all. That's what I'm hoping to do soon. But oh boy, check the trigger warnings if you want to read this. Please, please, please take care of yourself when reading books like these. The next category, or award I suppose, will be for book with the best plot twist, or just twist in general, one that really got me. Now, I've read a lot of thrillers and horror this year, so a few of them really got me, but some of them just weren't good. Some of them just didn't make the cut. One of them isn't a thriller at all, which is going to be our second place, The Empire of Dreams by Carson Ray. The twist got me. My camera battery's gonna die. But this twist really got me. I thought it was so brilliantly done. Good twist. This is the 4th book, technically, in the Girls of Thorns and Fire trilogy. It's kind of like the companion novel following Red, who is adopted, or is wanting to be adopted by the royal family, but it gets denied, so she instead joins the Royal Guard. And there's a lot of plots to assassinate some of her family, and she is badass, and I loved it. It was fantastic for that reason. I loved the plot twist. This, I think, also made me cry or almost cry. Would recommend. You also don't have to read the first 3 books to read this companion. It is completely separate, and I really appreciated that because I didn't know what I was getting into when I first started. The first place book, though, is They Never Learned by Lane Fargo. Wow, what a good thriller. We're following dual perspectives of Carly and Scarlett, both at the same university. Carly is a new student, just getting the hang of college with her roommate and her roommate's best friend, as well as Scarlett, who is a professor here. And she, Scarlett, murders the rapists and the bad men, students, teachers, whatever, like once a year. And Carly is showing us how just terrible and awful, absolutely terrible, universities can be with how much sexual assault can happen. So you're seeing both perspectives of like the bad and the revenge of this teacher who just doesn't want to put up with these men's shit, and I loved it. The plot twist, though, got me, and it got me good. If you know, you know. If you don't, I highly recommend you read this because you need to know. You need to understand. I listened to the audiobook and I thought it was amazing. I also read this for the Literally Dead book club. So there's a live show on Kayla's channel if you're interested in checking that out as well. The next award that I'm gifting, I'm sorry, is the worst book of 2021 that I read. Personal opinions. If you love this book, that's okay. I just didn't work for me, didn't jive with me. There's a lot of reviews that will sum it up better than I could. Ever Cursed by Corey Ann Haydu. I'm sorry. This cover is so beautiful. Like, this is a very beautiful book. But the inside is not. It's not so pretty. And I'm sorry if this is a book that you enjoy. That's okay. It just didn't work for me. This is a fairy tale styled fantasy following these sisters who get cursed by a young witch and the mother as well, and each of them get a curse on their 13th birthday, and we follow them throughout. The main character, whose name I don't remember, her leading up to her 18th birthday, which is when the curse is finalized. There's not much plot. There's no character development that I enjoyed. I didn't like the characters. I didn't like the way that the topics were touched on and talked about. Trigger warnings for this one of sexual assault and stuff. It just didn't work for me. I didn't like it. Sorry. I'm gonna just move on to something better now, which is the next award, the best book of 2021. Woo! Ah! This is the exciting part. And of course, the winner is a book that I don't have because I'm telling everyone to read it, so I've lent my copy out. Maybe a surprise to some. Definitely not a surprise to me. I think the best book that I've read in 2021 is The Death of Jane Lawrence by Caitlin Starling. Yeah, this is a fantastic. It's perfection. It's amazing. It's weird. It's gothic. It's horror, fantasy, romance goodness. And it's just done so well. And I know that when I watched the live show for Kayla and Books and Lala, who so graciously led me to this book because the fans got to vote, and these fans did me good because I loved this book. I loved it all the way through. Even the slow parts, I still loved it. The math parts, I loved it. We're following Jane, who is a bookkeeper and orphaned, so she's living with guardians who are planning to move back to a city where she was raised during a war, and she has just a lot of trauma and bad memories with that location, so she doesn't really want to go back. She would like to stay in the town that she's at. She makes enough to afford where she's living and stuff, and so she doesn't want to move. With that being said, she can't just stay, so she has to find the most eligible bachelor that she can that works for her situation. So she brings up a business proposal of marriage to Dr. Lawrence, who I love. If you've read Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, he kind of gives me Darlington vibes, and I love that so much. I wish there was more of him in the book, to be totally honest. But we're following Jane, and she has to work with the doctor. Trigger warning for body gore, because oh boy, she's working with him as a partial assistant in surgeries, and it's a lot sometimes. But she also does his books now, and they get married, and the only true rule is that she cannot stay at his big fancy manor outside of town. So what happens on their honeymoon? But she stays there, of course, because what else what else would happen? Something's forbidden, it's gonna happen. But basically, we're following her as she's staying at this house, and weird spooky shit's happening, and it's not fun. No one's enjoying it, everyone hates it, and you just learn so much, and it's so good. It's so good. I just loved the characters. I loved the story. She's a bookkeeper. I aspire to be a bookkeeper soon. Like, it's fantastic. It was so good. I loved it. I know a lot of people don't. It's not for everyone. That's totally fine. But it worked for me, and it worked for me so much. It was amazing. So good. So, those were my, official book awards. I have 2 more awards to give out that are bookish related. The first one being my favorite readathon that I participated in 2021. Now, technically it was Buzzwordathon, because this buzzword reading challenge is the reason why I started reading in 2021 that Kayla from Books and Lala puts on. But as fun as I had, I didn't always stick to it, but it's got a very special place in my heart, and I'm of course going to continue doing it. With that being said, the Dark Academia Book Club did a birthday celebration for their year anniversary, as well as people graduating and actual birthdays, and there's just a lot. And they had really fun academic prompts, and I read the most books. That was the first month that I read so many books, and I had so much fun with it. and it just opened my eyes to so much, and I fell in love, and it really helped. And it was the same time as the Asian readathon, so shout out to Cindy for that one, because that was also really fun to participate in. But yeah, the DA birthday celebration was my personal favorite because it did a lot of good for my life, my reading. So that would be my winner. And then the final category, favorite booktuber discovered in 2021. Now, I have so many, like, I love so many booktubers. I try to follow as many as I can so that I can support and see more and just get more into the community, as well as see more recommendations, not the same people all the time. I have my favorites that I mention all the time, that I've known about for a while, but then there's some new ones that I loved. And the top one that I fell in love with watching their content this year was Books with Maddie. And I know you guys have already heard me talk about her, but I loved her channel. It kind of gives me similar vibes to Emmy, but she just more talks about books. She doesn't do a lot of vlogs, although her vlogs are fun. Her Sarah J. Maas vlogs were a lot of fun. I highly recommend you check her out. She will of course be linked down below. I'm already discovering so many new booktubers in 2022 that make me so excited. I'm so happy to be a part of this community now. But yes, that's everyone. That's everything. That's all that I'm gonna say for now. I've been rambling for so long about books and people, and I'm gonna go rest my vocals a little bit. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed this. Let me know if there's any books in these award categories that you feel really passionate about and definitely have a book that just instantly comes to mind. Let me know down below. I would love to hear about it. Maybe read them for 2022. But yeah, that is all that I have for you today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you guys all really soon. Bye!